What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our SEC football channel. Our 2020 college football predictions continue with the Georgia Bulldogs, a team that had a pretty solid year last year, but didn't quite finish where they wanted to finish, and that was in the college football playoff. I'll give you my thoughts on this team, and then we'll go through game by game and make some predictions. I think Georgia will have the best defense in the country this season. I don't think that's really real debatable either. I think it's pretty clear with everything Georgia has coming back and the defenses that they've had the last couple of years. This team is absolutely loaded on that side of the ball, and I think that they will have the best defense in the country. Offensively, they're going to be missing the spring practice because they're changing their offense up and get more aggressive on that side of the ball. I think Jamie Newman is going to be a good fit. How soon can he pick things up and get that chemistry with the wide receivers? That's going to be a big question mark for them. I think they still will try to run the football a good bit, especially early in the year. And you can use Jamie Newman running the football as well. Offensive line, they lost some guys there, but they have plenty of talent on the offensive line. And one of the things about the defense, it's not just the starters, it's the depth. They have so much depth, and that just shows you how well they have recruited, because they just have so much talent on this roster that if they have a couple injuries, it's really not going to be that big of a deal. Here are some of the predictions for the Georgia Bulldogs. The FBI has them at 10.2 and 2.4, so that would include a potential conference championship game. That's why it goes over 12. So about 10-2 for this team. Vegas has the over-under at 10. That means you got to go over or under 10 if you're going to bet on this team. And then Athlon has them at 10-2. They actually have Florida winning the SEC East instead of Georgia. So that was a little bit interesting. But yeah, I think if you're going to bet on Georgia, there is absolutely no way I would go under. This team will win at least 10 games. It's very possible they win 11, or who knows, maybe even go 12-0 this season, because the schedule's not horrible. And here is that schedule. You can see they have Virginia to open up the season. That's going to be on the Monday night, Labor Day night of the opening weekend of the college football season in Atlanta. Big time game. Virginia won the ACC Coastal Division last year, but they lost a lot. Bryce Perkins is gone. They lost some big time playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Defense was really good last year. They had some losses there as well. I think just from a talent level, I mean, Georgia just way above Virginia. And I don't think Virginia is going to have much of a chance in this game. I don't really expect it to be close. I know we'd like to see a close game, a big early season matchup, Labor Day night, neutral field in Atlanta. You'd like to see it, a close game here, but it's just not going to happen. I think Georgia wins easily. Maybe offensively, they're a little bit slow out of the gates with the new offense and everything. And Virginia's going to have a solid defense, so I don't think Georgia's going to score 50 points or anything like that. I just don't expect the game really to be all that close. And then we've got Alabama on September 19th, week 3 of the season, early season matchup on the road. This, in my opinion, is the most difficult game of the schedule for Georgia, playing again on the road against a very talented Alabama team. I just don't think the offense is going to be good enough this early in the season. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for them to get rolling offensively. Defensively, they'll keep this game close. I think it's fairly low scoring. Again, I think this is the best defense in the country, but I think Alabama makes the plays playing at home. They find a way to get it done in the fourth quarter. It's a close game, but I am going to go with Alabama to get the win here over Georgia and give Georgia their first loss of the season. So 2-1 now. They will play Louisiana Monroe after that. That game should be a pretty easy win, although ULM is one of the better group of 5 teams, so don't expect this game to be 70-0, but it won't be close. I think Georgia does win fairly easily. Vanderbilt on October the 3rd. That should also be an easy win for the Bulldogs. I don't really see them having any problem with Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's going to be very young this year. It's now or never for Vanderbilt as far as rebuilding. They've got to go in a new direction and build that foundation this year. It's not going to be a good year this year, but maybe in the future they can build off of that. But yeah, they're nowhere near the level of Georgia. This game will not be close, and Georgia will roll over the Commodores and move on to 4-1 after the ULM game. 4-1 before heading to a game against Auburn on October the 10th. So normally they always play at the end of the year, but because Auburn wanted to not have to play Georgia and Alabama at the end of the season, they traded off for LSU, which makes absolutely no sense. I am an Auburn fan. You guys, if you've watched the channel, know that. And I don't like it. You know, they at least always had a bye week between the Georgia and Alabama games. Now they have LSU and Alabama back-to-back. And it messes up the tradition. It really does. So I don't like this. But anyways, it is going to be in in October 10th. I don't think Auburn will have much of a chance in this game. Playing on the road, they have a tough time in Athens. I think that will continue this year. Auburn's going to be a pretty talented team, but I just don't think they're going to be good enough to really compete in this game. I don't think it'll be a huge blowout, but I think Georgia will never – the outcome will never be in doubt. We'll know Georgia's going to win this game from the beginning, and it won't really be all that close. Missouri on October 17th. That's a road game. Georgia has – struggled a little bit in these games in the past. It's between Auburn but for Florida, playing on the road. I'm not saying they lose these games, but we've seen them struggle just a little bit. And I don't think that's going to happen this time, though, because Missouri is another team that's really in rebuild mode, kind of like Vanderbilt. I don't expect them to be able to put up much of a fight. Unless Georgia just really sleepwalks through this game, I expect them to win easily. And really, from ULM down to Missouri, I think they're going to win those games. After the Alabama loss, I think they bounce back and win all 4 of those games fairly easily. Then they get their bye week before playing Florida on October 31st. On Halloween, how about that? This is a huge game, and it's a game that I really have gone back and forth on this offseason. I'm high on Florida. I really like Florida and a lot of the things going for them. But I really like this Georgia defense as well. And they did a nice job against Florida's offense last year. Now, remember, Jake Fromm was really good on third downs in that game. I think they'll have to do that again. Jamie Newman's going to have to be good on third downs. And I think he will be. I think he can use his legs, pick up some of those third down conversions. And I think Georgia will be able to do enough offensively. I think the defense will really win them this game because it's going to be that good. And I don't see Florida being quite as explosive as say, Alabama. Plus, the game is on a neutral field. It's not on the road. So I think Georgia wins a close game. I don't expect a blowout by any means. I think it's a one-possession, fourth-quarter game. But I'm going to go with Georgia to get the win over Florida and move on to 7-1 before playing South Carolina. Remember, South Carolina beat Georgia last year on their home field. Really messed everything up because Georgia probably would have made the college football playoff if they had. Well, that's tough to say. You know, they did get beat pretty bad by LSU, but they would have they would have been in that conversation at least. So Georgia's going to be out for revenge. South Carolina, they'll have some confidence. They'll have some swagger in this game. That home crowd will be rocking. It will be one of those upset alert type games. I think Georgia will have to just survive, and I think they do. I think it's a close game, maybe going into the fourth quarter. Georgia pulls away, makes some big plays, and they do get a win over South Carolina to move to 8-1. Tennessee is up next. They play them late in the year. I guess they kind of switched Tennessee and Auburn because I think they play Tennessee normally sort of in that spot where Auburn is. But Tennessee is going to be a talented team this year. That program definitely is headed in the right direction. But again, I think offensively, they are still going to be challenged. I've said this in other videos. That's why I say again, I think Tennessee struggles to score enough points in this game. I think Georgia's offense really is starting to get it going by this point. Maybe they struggle a little bit against Florida and South Carolina, but they really start to click here against Tennessee. I know it's a good defense, but I think playing at home, this is when you really start seeing Georgia look like a playoff contender, a championship team, and they take care of business against Tennessee and get a win in a somewhat close game, but not a one-possession game. And then it's Kentucky on November 21st on the road. Kentucky is going to be kind of like the old Georgia teams. They're going to run the football and play good defense, and they are going to be able to do that really well, in my opinion. Offensive line might be the best offensive line in the SEC, maybe behind Alabama. And so it's going to be an interesting game. Kentucky hasn't quite been able to really compete with Georgia these last few years, even though they've really been a lot better. For whatever reason, they haven't been able to get it done. I don't really think they have a real shot in this game. And again, I think Georgia's offense is starting to get going a little bit here. Kentucky will slow them down a little bit. I mean, they're not just going to score 40 or 50 points in this game, but I do think Georgia will win this game by at least a couple of possessions. But don't sleep on that one. Kentucky's a good football team. I'm telling you, if Georgia's offense is not where it needs to be by that point, if they're having some struggles offensively, Kentucky could make that game really interesting But I do think I really believe in Jamie Newman and this new offense, and I think Georgia will be clicking by then. And then they'll play Georgia Tech on November 28th. This game will be at home. Georgia Tech's a team with a brutal schedule. We ranked them as having the toughest schedule in the country this season, and it doesn't end well for them because they play Georgia here, rivalry game. I expect Georgia Tech to be better this year, but they're not going to be anywhere near the level of Georgia. Georgia Tech will not be anywhere near the level of the Georgia Bulldogs. I think Georgia wins this game. They win it by 3 or 4 touchdowns, and they move on to, yes, the SEC championship, because you can see they only have 1 loss in our predictions, and that's to a team out of the West, so that guarantees them a spot in the SEC championship. And we did do Alabama already. You saw I had them going undefeated. That means we have Georgia and Alabama in a rematch in the SEC championship, and I'm not going to give you that prediction in this video. We'll be doing that at a later date when we show our final standings prediction for the SEC. Again, we will also make our SEC championship prediction then as well. So that'll be coming, but I've got Georgia going 11-1, and they are 1 win away. A win over Alabama in a rematch in the SEC championship. 1 win away from making the college football playoff in 2020. Those are my thoughts on Georgia. Again, it could go a little bit different. I think Florida that's the one game that could really turn this thing around. If they lose to Florida, then I think Florida does get to the SEC championship instead of Georgia. So that will be the biggest game of the year for them. The Alabama game is big, but if they lose it, it really doesn't affect a whole lot. They still control their own destiny to get to the SEC championship, and they could very well have a chance to get a rematch with Alabama and win that game and move on to the college football playoff. So again, I've got them at 11-1. What do all of you think about Georgia? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports YouTube channel.